You are listening to The Growth Signal. My name is Alyssa Nolte,
I'm TJ Walia.
and we're going to get right into it. TJ, what is your hot take?
My hot take is that everyone thinks tech layoffs this year were bad. Wait till next year. We had over 100,000 individuals let go this year, and I suspect we'll see that number in the first 6 months.
I wish I could like throw down with you right now, TJ, and be like, TJ, you're wrong. You're wrong. We are done with the layoffs. Everyone's job is safe. Like the economy's going to get better. We're all going to see improvements, and all of these layoffs, they were just a moment in time, not a future thing that we can expect. But unfortunately, I can't say that. I can't throw down with you right now. So tell me more about why you think we're going to see a huge set of layoffs in the first 6 months of 2026.
Yeah, there's a number of reasons I see it as. I talk to a lot of people, Alyssa, and the conversations usually are around, well, I was fine. My performance was good. This was okay. That was okay. So it has nothing to do with performance anymore. It's really about rebalancing the high tech salaries that we were all getting. It was they were highly inflated for the longest time. And to add to that, I remember I shared an idea back in January of this year saying that this is going to be the year of RTO, return to office. And that's exactly what's happening. And so next year, it becomes almost like an excuse to say, hey, you know what? All those people got laid off. You come to the office and we're okay. And the people that don't, the fear is if I don't go back to the office, I also get laid off. So therefore I must go. So it's almost like a fear factor that they're leveraging here, but primarily to also rebalance the high tech salaries.
Is there any way if a company leader is hearing this and they're saying to themselves, "I don't really want to be in that camp," is there anything that we can do to kind of stave off these layoffs, or is a rebalancing inevitable and there's really nothing we can do?
I don't see much happening from that perspective because the majority or the masses have been at that pay scale. The people that actually really want to secure their future, it's leveraging AI. A
Mm,
lot of people are like, AI is going to take your job. It's not going to take your job. It's the people that are using AI to 10x their performance that are going to take your jobs, not anyone else. And that's the stage we're at right now. 10 years down the road, maybe a different conversation. Right now, that's not the conversation.
yeah. And I can see it too, right? Because, like, I use AI in my own business. I mean, there's only, like it's me and, like, 2 other people. So, we're trying to do as much as we can with as little amount of resources. We're trying to be very smart and scrappy with what we have going on. And it is tempting to just say, "Okay, like, instead of hiring another person to be on the team, let's just see how much we can get away with AI." And even on my small scale, we found ourselves saying things like, "We're gonna wait to hire as long as humanly possible and until we all are begging for more help, and we're gonna use AI to make sure that that time doesn't come very soon."
Yeah, spot on. I'm a one-man show in my company as well, but I've got, a few key roles that need to be there. For example, my video editors or my script writers. I have those key essential roles because AI still lacks in certain aspects. But there are other aspects where I would not have it any other way. I need AI. I depend on AI. And without that technology, I don't think I'd be able to run my business the way I do.
I think it's also important too that we as people who are actually using the AI and depend on it, because I depend on it too. I will open my ChatGPT before I'll open my Google search if I have a question or something that I'm trying to figure out. And I think there's a little bit of, like, shame, I guess, that people have on the internet. Like, I don't know about you, but my LinkedIn feed is full of like, "Oh, I can tell you're using AI because you use an M dash or whatever that is."
Yeah.
And people are like, "No, I didn't." But maybe it's time we, say it with our whole chest. Like, I am using AI
Yeah.
because I need to 10x myself.
Well, let me ask you, so what? Like, that's where it comes down to. Every executive that I know that has been on stage has never written their own script. So they have a script writer.
Yeah.
Someone else has done it. So if you replace that with an AI, what difference does it make? And if we arm ourselves with the same skill set or the same resources as those executives, why is it a shame? Why can't we, 10x our performance? Every high performing athlete has a coach. Every, executive that I know has a coach. So if AI becomes your coach as an individual contributor or a level one manager or level two manager, so what? Why is this an issue?
I wonder too, because as you were talking, I'm like, okay, if we think of AI as just a tool, right? It is something that is helping us be better, smarter, faster, whatever, adjective you want to use. No different than I would laugh at you if you said, "Alyssa, I only do my correspondence on handwritten cursive because I don't believe in the printing press because, it's how that's changing the way we do business." Like, we wouldn't say that, right? We all live with our cell phones, we all live with our computers. We love the convenience of something that allows us to communicate faster. This is no different in many ways.
Absolutely. It's like saying, "I'm not gonna use a calculator," right? It's why not? You're actually putting yourself behind. If you're becoming more efficient, it doesn't doubt or negate the fact that you don't know how to do the work. It just amplifies and allows you to do it much faster. That's it. That's all it
Yeah.
comes down to. The final product and the final work, it still has to be yours. You have to sign off on it. And I love what Microsoft did with this. They called it Copilot, reminding you every step of the way that you're in charge,
Yeah.
not the other way around. But I think where people get it wrong is they put AI in charge. "Oh, well, AI gave it to me." Well, where's your accountability? What are you doing? If
Right.
your intern, created a report for you and then you submit it to a board of directors and you're gonna say, "Oh, my intern did it?" No, you're going to really thoroughly check that report and then submit that. The same rules apply here. You have to do your due diligence. You have to get in there, get behind it, but use it as a tool to speed things up, to fact check, to get other. If I'm using one AI and if it's a very critical report or submission, I will actually cross check it with a different AI just to make sure. Hey, listen, are we good?
Yeah.
Or do I have to now go through it? And then at the last final stage, then I go through it and I check every single resource and link that it's put in there to make sure it's accurate. Otherwise, it's not going because my name's on the line.
And I couldn't imagine too, like, if when you said the intern thing, that was so poignant because I could never imagine submitting something that an intern created without looking at it,
Yeah,
right? Because 'Cause we've had interns before. They are great. They're scrappy young adults usually, but they're young adults who are just getting into
absolutely.
work for the first time. And so I check everything they do, and then I check their redos and their redos after that, and I would never ever let an intern speak on my behalf, and yet we are all some of us are allowing AI to speak on our behalf.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's where the challenge is. And I think we think of this AI tool as something that knows all and does all, but it has its own data sets. It has its own limitations. There are there are aspects that we have to absolutely cross check. There's things that it's going to be good at. Yeah, find me, the answer to how many calories are in an orange. Fine. It'll go on the web. It'll get you this information that's been there on, a million different websites. But if you're really going to go deep into research on something, like, come on, like let's take some accountability.
Yeah. So, what does this mean for our layoff conversation and the fact that we might lose another 100,000 tech jobs in the first 6 months of 2026? And what if someone is hearing this and they have one of those tech jobs and they think maybe they might be in that 100,000, what should they be doing to ensure that whatever happens to them is within their control as much as it can be?
Yeah, I think there's two aspects. We have to skill up. We have to understand uh, how to be independent. I see the entire economy going towards more of a gig economy, right? You're coming in for certain jobs, doing a task, you're out. And a lot of us don't know, or somewhere along the way, we lost our ability to survive. We're so dependent on corporations, organizations, that we don't know how to earn $5 on our own. How sad is that? That is the core skill we need. And I think when I left Microsoft, I was in the exact same boat. I was like, I'm 20 years in corporate. How the hell am I going to make a living? How am I going to provide for my family? I had to relearn. And I tell people, I said, I learned a lot in 20 years of my corporate career, 15 years at Microsoft. But what I learned in the past 2.5, 3 years outweighs all of that because I learned how to earn for myself
Yeah.
to the point where I can replace my corporate salary and not have to worry. I'm no, I tell my kids, I'm no longer tethered to the system. We're all in this system and we're all little strings from this big corporation. And as soon as one gets cut off, we're like, oh my God, we're lost. When I got cut off, I was free. I was like, this
Yeah.
is amazing. Now I'm not dependent on a Microsoft or an Amazon or an Intel or a Google or a Meta. It doesn't matter. I can go out, earn on my own. I have that skill set and I know I can go to any part of the world now and use that skill set to live my life. That I think is the biggest lesson that I learned more than anything else. And I think that's what people have to start realizing, opening up to. And that's essentially what I teach now is how do you now become independent? How do you generate your first of five to $10,000? And once they understand that, then it's game over. That's all it takes. Most
Right.
tech salaries are in the range of, I would say, $8,000 to $14,000 a month. And if you can learn how to replicate that or reproduce that without being tethered onto a system, it's game over at that point.
I had kind of the opposite experience because I didn't grow up in corporate. I grew up in a startup. So I joined a startup straight out of college, and then we eventually got acquired, and it was definitely a more corporate environment. So I had no idea, like, when you talk about the feeling of being tied to a corporation and, like, whatever they do, you have to do. I didn't really understand that for probably the first, like, 8 to 10 years of my career, and then when we got acquired, it became more corporate. I was like, "Oh, this is what people are talking about. This is
Yeah.
why people are, like, unhappy in their jobs because I couldn't relate to that."
Yeah.
And then it's so funny that you use the word free because when I decided to go back out on my own, that is the word that I used to describe it. There was, like, this moment of that cord cutting, and then you felt totally free in the moment. Was it scary? Absolutely. Did I stay in that environment longer than I should have because of the fear of going from stability into the unknown? Yes. But would I ever go back? Absolutely not.
No, absolutely. I had someone I met 2 weeks ago that said to me, "Teacher, like you're an incredible entrepreneur. You see all the challenges. You're building solutions. You're generating revenue. Why did you stay so long in corporate?" And I said, "It was the fear. I overstayed my welcome,
Yeah.
and I got to a point where I was like, I'm done, and I had to cut the cord. And I wish I'd done it sooner. I really do. But it is something you learn along the way."
So, a lot of the people that we have who listen to the show, a lot of this audience do work in that more corporate environment. What would you have them do first? Like, besides, like, how to earn that first $5, it's almost going back to even the root center. How do they figure out what their skills are, what value they bring to the world, what problems they can solve, and then figure out how to actually charge people for that?
Yeah, I built a whole framework around this because those are the struggles and challenges I went through. But I call my framework the COMS framework, COMS. And the first part of it, the C, is really clarity. And it's not about getting another certification or getting an MBA or getting another degree or another diploma. It's all irrelevant. All you need to do is take an inventory of the skill set that you have. That is the first step. And understand, is there a need in the market? I have individuals that I work with that are 25 plus years at corporations like Microsoft and Amazon and IBM. And they're like, what will I ever teach? What will I ever do? What will I sell? They have no idea. And I'm like, do you understand how much experience, excuse me, do you understand how much experience you have locked in there?
Yeah.
They just don't know how to monetize. So I walk them through that framework. Like, you have all this skill set. Let's now find, once we've identified the what, let's find out who. That's the second part of the framework, is finding out who is going to hire you for these services or who's going to pay you. And a lot of people mix that up, and I think that's where they make the biggest mistake. I want to help newcomers, or I want to help a new graduate. They don't have the income to pay you
Right.
for your experience and your skills. So how do you match the right who with the what? And then after that, you go out and build an offer, and then the marketing aspect of it, and then the sales component of it, right? That's the journey I kind of walk them through. But to your point, to your question, the first part really is figuring out the what. Everyone's stuck on that. I think at 99.9% of the people I talk to are stuck on, what am I going to do? And once they have that, they're smart people.
Yeah.
You've worked in corporations earning, six figures, bonuses that are 50 to $100,000. You know what you're doing. But once they get the direction of where it is, they run. They run on their own. And that's what I love about it. And I'm like, okay, you don't need me anymore. We're good.
Talk to me about how you help these people do sales and marketing, right? Because what I've found is that, like, people like me who never had any resources, we always had to be scrappy. Like, when you're in a startup, you have to be creative out of the box and super scrappy and, like, make not like do more with nothing, let alone do
Yes.
more with less.
I love
And
that.
sometimes I feel like corporation people who come from that world are used to having resources. They're used to having budgets and people to help them So how do you help them flip that mindset of, hey, you no longer have the backing of, this or these people or those people. You can't delegate to anyone. It's just you. So how do you get them to learn those sales and marketing skills that they have to be super scrappy and entrepreneurial?
Yeah, great question. We overcomplicate things as humans. I actually strip everything away. Like, you don't need anything. All you need is a group of people that you know, which they have a huge network on, usually on LinkedIn, right? Or they know people. They might have not added them through the years, but they might have them on their phones and Excel. That's all they need. From that, it's just a matter of having a conversation and saying, hey, listen, like, this is what I do. Don't pitch it directly. You're going to suck at it. Say, if you know someone who might need services like this, please let me know. This is what I do. This is what I help them with. If it sparks their interest and they're like, hey, I might need some of that, great. But the conversation isn't awkward by you saying, hey, I'm selling this, this, and this. Are you interested in buying my service? No, I'm okay. Right. Rather than,
Right.
hey, love to catch up on a coffee chat or a virtual chat. Why don't you pick your brain? I'm starting this. Do you know anyone who might be interested? And they might get you one or two people, or they might be interested. I've this is how I got my first few sales. I just sent it out to my network and said, guys, this is what I'm doing. Love your support. Now they don't feel obligated. They don't feel awkward. The conversation hasn't changed because next time you ping them, they're like, oh, here he comes again.
Yeah.
It's okay. He's not selling me anything. It's okay. And so for me, sales in corporate sales are very different. We got this package, we got this, but very different. I don't like sales. I never did. Because sales means you're trying to convince someone to buy your services. And I remember, listen, I hired a sales coach because I'm like, I've done corporate sales. I've never done this. This individual gets on a Teams call with me, makes me buy a VoIP phone and says, we're going to do cold calling. And he's like now watching me do the most awkward thing I've ever had to do. Like, I've been in corporate for a long time.
Yeah.
My heart's pacing. I'm like, why am I doing this? This feels so unnatural. Like, no, you got to pick up the phone, dial. We dial one, doesn't answer. We dial two, they hang up on me. We dial the third one, they're like, I'm not interested. And then by the fourth one, I'm like, dude, I'm not dialing anymore. We're done. And he's like, no, but you're not gonna succeed. I'm like, I'll figure out another way. But I fired my sales coach. I'm like, we're done.
Yeah.
And then I changed it to the approach I was talking about. I was like, let me just ask people in my network if they can support and help. And it naturally started coming in. And then from there, the conversation was just that. Hey, TJ, I hear you help with this. What does that look like? Yeah, this is what we do. Okay, great. Can you jump on a lunch and learn for our team? Yeah. Or can you come in and do a keynote for one of our events? Yeah. And that's how it started rather than doing direct. So get indirect, make it easy for the other person, not uncomfortable. Because when you pitch directly, it's uncomfortable for you as well,
Yeah.
especially in the early days. Once you've gone through it, then it's easy. It's like, hey, listen, this is what I do. I don't want this to be awkward, but know that this is what we do. And if you ever need services of this, great. If you know someone who needs it, great, even better, right? But don't make it awkward. Make it a conversation. That's where the sales piece comes in. So to answer your question again, we overcomplicate everything based on what we have in corporate.
I do wanna go back to, your framework here because it occurs to me that if you're gonna do that kind of outreach to anyone, let alone your friends and, like, network, you really have to have a good, clear understanding of what it is that you bring to the table, what your offer is, and keep it really, really simple because I've worked with people who are very talented and smart and can do everything, so therefore they put everything on the table thinking, "If I
Yeah.
throw everything I can do out there, then I will attract the widest net," when in reality, it's precision fishing, not net
Yeah.
casting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to focus on the one. Focus on the one thing that you can do. Because once you, to your point, once you're throwing that wide net, then you're now trying to pick and choose. Okay, I'll do a bit of this. And I did this. I made this mistake. I'll do a little bit of that. I'll do
We
a
all
little bit of
do.
that.
Anyone who has multi-talent
Yeah.
does make this mistake.
And that's why we get stuck with what am I going to do? Because I have this huge portfolio of things. Yeah, can I do a PowerPoint presentation? Yeah, I can. I'm a master at it. I'll edit your PowerPoints, right? But I'll also do this and I'll also do that and just pick one. Pick one, monetize it. Understand that once you've generated a rhythm where you can start generating revenue, to the point where you no longer have to rely on the system, and the system meaning corporations, and that paycheck month to month. Then expand out. Then say, okay, we also do this, or I can also help with this. But understand the baseline. That baseline is so key. And that's where we get hung up on, because initially we don't have enough customers. So we think I have to offer 15 things, but no, find that one service that 15 people want, not the other way around, right? That's what we have to look at.
So, the other thing I think too, as you think about people who come out of corporate, you made a comment earlier of like you have all this 25 years of experience. And I think we have to like change our mindset, right? Like you have earned the right to talk about your incredible experiences, to lean on your network that you've built for the last couple of years. Like just because you're no longer with Microsoft doesn't mean that you lose the things that you've learned, the experience that you've gained and the people that you've met. You've earned the right to leverage that and they would do it if they were still at Microsoft. So why wouldn't you do it for yourself?
I love when you say that, because most of the people that actually do side gigs while they're at these corporations are charging anywhere from 50 to $100 an hour. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, well, who's going to pay more than that? Because they don't look at themselves as any value. They look at it as, well, I'm tied to the corporation. Um, Alyssa, when I left Microsoft, one of my first clients, I'm going to share the story with you and then the audience. I asked one of my consultant buddies, I said, "Hey, listen, what do I charge? Like, I'm now on my own. I have no idea how to do this." And he says to me, he goes, "TJ," and he says it in such a way. He goes, "You're going to charge $300 an hour." And he's so confident about this. And I said, "Help me justify why. Like, where do you come up with this number from?" He goes, "$100 an hour for you, $100 an hour for your company, and $100 an hour for a rainy day." Like, he is so like, I'm like, dude, you're full of shit. Like, where does that even come from? Like, I can't justify that. And that's not the game I want to be in, because that means to me is a new consultant can come in and say, I'm just going to charge $300 an hour just because. Or someone who's been in the industry for 20 years as a consultant says, I'm going to charge $300 an hour. What's the differentiator? Where does, 20 years of my corporate experience working with high profile clients, working with top executives, working with deals that are make it or break it for organizations, where does that value come in from? So I said, I'm not going down the hourly path. And my first deal I looked at, it wasn't about, is it 6 hours you're working or is it 8 hours you're working? It's about, what's the deliverable and what's the actual change your organization is going to go through? And then I build based on that. And a lot of people miss this
Yeah,
because they're not confident enough. They don't know how to price it. They don't know how to value themselves and their experiences. So they come in far lower, far lower. And I would say, based on an 8-hour day with that first client that I got, based on my consultant buddy's math, it would have been $2,400. I charged far over 10K for that engagement.
right.
There's
You're
no
leaving money on
way.
the table if you just pick a random
Huge,
number.
huge, because the transformation for that organization to go from where they were to where they're going to end up was full of 15 years of experience from Microsoft. And you package that together and you say, here, this is what I've got. And they're like, yeah, where do we sign? We don't value ourselves enough. We devalue our own worth.
Absolutely. I had someone on the show who said what you need to do is have a little sticky note at the corner of your computer that says how much you're going to charge. Like, oh, my prices start at $10,000. And anytime you get off a call, you hit end on your Zoom call or your Teams call, and you just say, I charge my prices start at 10,000 or whatever your number is. And she says, until you can say that without flinching or without
Yeah.
like taking a breath, you can't say that price.
Yeah.
And so you have to keep doing that until that price no longer feels like a big number to you because you've said it so many times. So I think that there's definitely
I love that.
strategies. We do devalue ourselves. And you kind of talked about in this conversation about all the people that reaching out to those people that you know, and considering all the people that you know or aspire to know, who else should we be paying attention to? Who else is out there?
Yeah. I've got two names for you. One is from home, which is my daughter, Melina Walia. She has her own podcast. She's 15 actually. And she's basically, running she's an entrepreneur, running her own podcast where she's representing the next generation of confident, independent um, individuals or leaders that are not waiting for permission. And her podcast called the Young Leaders Podcast. And she does this because she came to me and asking me for advice along the way. And, as I broke away from corporate and was in corporate, it's easy for me to give her advice of what to do, what not to do, and be, really authentic with her. And then I had a thought at one point and I said, listen, like, I might not be right. I might not have all the answers. And I don't want her to grow up and say, you know what, Dad, you misguided me on this. You were wrong here. And that's okay to be wrong, but I just don't want that to be a consequence on her life. So, and to say that one of the rules that we have in the house is the word fail means first attempt in learning. So we don't even look at failure as a negative thing. But so I had that conversation with her. I said, listen, if you're going to go through this, why don't you ask other people the same advice, same questions? Other leaders who've gone through it. Everyone's going to have different experiences. You now package all that for yourself and you learn from that. And she's like, that's a great idea. And then she goes, how do I do this? I'm like, just jump on a Teams call, go to my network on LinkedIn. So her first few, guests were people from Microsoft or from my own network. And I said, while you're going to do that, why don't you hit record? And she's like, why? You're going to now package that information and share it with others who are aspiring to learn. And that's all it's going to take. And so she started down that path and that journey, and she's now been able to she's independent. I don't pay for a single thing for her anymore at 15, right? So it's really cool and powerful from there. The second person I would say is Gary Vee. Love Gary Vee. I know a lot of people, it's either you hate him or you love him. What I love about him is his authenticity. He sees what's happening and he calls it for what it is. Some people hate that. Some people want it sugar coated. Some people want no. You have to read right through it, and he doesn't leave it up for you to guess or imagine what he's trying to say. He says what it is, and the beautiful part is Gary Vee is actually going to be a guest on Melina's podcast. So those are the two names that really come to mind.
And if someone is really connecting with you, they wanna learn more, they wanna follow along with your story and your journey, where can they find you online?
Yeah, I think for me, I live on LinkedIn. So if anyone wants to connect with me, find me on LinkedIn. Just do a search for TJ Walia. We'll have the link in the description as well, and connect with me there. I connect with majority of the people that come in and want to have a conversation, an authentic conversation. I'll support where I can. A lot of the content I create on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram as well, but LinkedIn I think is the main platform. Is is really authentic about the state of the economy right now in corporate. What's happening? Layoffs. How do you build yourself? How do you build your confidence? How do you deal with imposter syndrome? All of those conversations are what I cover in my content.
TJ, thank you so much for coming on the Growth Signal today. This was a really interesting conversation, and I think one that people need to hear.
Amazing. Lisa, thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.